So I have been in a couple of conversations over the last couple of weeks about my Voices United video. This is where I go over the voice actor strike that's going on right now. A lot of the criticism I've been getting about that video is about how programmers and artists are working much longer hours and much harder for much less pay. So I figure, fuck it, let's give them their due right now, tonight. For most of the 2000s, the late great Roger Ebert was taking part in many debates about whether video games can now be considered an art form or not. Some of his comments would cite how video games are an interactive experience, that the freedom of emotion that you as a player would go through would not be direct enough to count as a true piece of art. He would even compare video games to regular sports like football or baseball.
I really don't find that kind of video game at all interesting. Do you find it interesting?
You know, I was going to say, I got one of these sets at home and I started playing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with it. And after a while, after about a week of this, I would find that every time I had a spare moment, or every time I came home, I was in front of the set playing with these mutant turtles, and it got to the point where it was making me quite unhappy because I was so obsessed with it. And I finally unplugged the machine and I said, that's it for Nintendo, because it seems to me that it's so hypnotic and so repetitive that it was just not good for my mental health.
Well, the other thing that I think is, once you know how to do it well, what have you got?
Well, actually, and I never did find out how to do it well either.
In an April 2010 blog post, boasting the headline, "Video games can never be art," Ebert describes in detail his opinions on the subject. As always for Ebert, it is a very well-written article, but as he would explain a few months later in a different blog post, he was not informed enough to make this argument, and admits that games are evolving into an art form. He even goes as far to say that some games are already there. It is easy to see how someone who rarely plays video games, if ever, can easily dismiss them as either a child's play or a gross fucking shoot 'em up. But video games are an art form. Even exhibits for video games have been opened up in art museums.
The player plays as wind blowing flower petals through these various fields. And it's really an expression of the director, Genova Chen, who moved from the extremely metropolitan area of Shanghai, China, to the relatively more rural area of California. And he was just amazed by these huge rolling landscapes. And yet he found over time that he started to miss those elements of the city he grew up with.
Games have left us at the edge of our seat, fighting off hordes of zombies, hoping to just make it to that next fucking checkpoint. Other games have left us in tears as we see a little girl's finger get chopped off as a dimensional portal closes on it.
Give me back my daughter! No!
To get us up to that point where a grieving woman who has lost everything just shot a friend over a false fucking accusation.
There! I got him! Please, let's just get back in
That's
the
not
RV.
happening. You think you're some tough bitch, don't you? Like nothing can hurt you. But you're just a scared little girl. Get the fuck over it. Take a page from Lee's book and try helping somebody for once.
Now, what the fuck's the problem?
These are just a few of the emotions that game developers have given us. Video game artists have been working for decades to move games from primitive lines hitting a circle back and forth to a beautiful collection of polygons that can be used to tell us an amazing fucking story. They have even given us players experiences that just 4 decades ago only our imaginations could have built it up. Some older games would use a stylized color palette to get away with lower polygon counts without sacrificing the graphics. Other games, they have distinctive art styles. We see this a lot in indie games. Each of these games is just stunning to look at, despite the low-tech graphics that are utilized. As of right now, many games use a photorealistic art style. These games are usually made up of meticulously planned out and stunning set pieces. They have backgrounds and skyboxes that seamlessly fit into each fucking map. Each character in the game is motion captured to give them lifelike movements. The character models each have layers of texture to give their skin different imperfections like freckles and blotching. All of these techniques are utilized in these games to bring them as close to reality as possible. In last week's video, we touched a bit on programmers and some of the stresses that they have to deal with. Everything from the constant juggle of keeping players happy to the fucking investors that they have to deal with. Programmers are usually the people that are stuck with the long hours at the office. Some of them even end up spending the night on the couch in the lobby because they don't stop working until just a couple of hours before they have to be back again. This fucking sucks. Hell, I hate it when I have to put in just like 10 hours a day at work. I can only dread what it'd be like to work twice that. With that said, all their hard work does not go unnoticed. Even though sometimes we can get a bit more vocal about our critiques than we are about our praises. Programmers generally set the foundation for a game. They build it up from nothing more than an idea on a piece of paper to a full layout of maps, objects, characters, and of course the fucking gameplay mechanics. They are constantly in a fight with hardware and engine limitations to give us gamers the best experience they can possibly give. Games used to be pretty simple. Only a single map, basic rules, and a win-lose screen was needed. But still, something as basic as this requires thousands of lines of codes. Then games started to get much more fucking complicated. The first change to come was multiple screens. Then large maps started to become really popular. Not long after that, games went from sprites to polygons. Nowadays, they are so complicated, millions to billions of lines of code are required. Thankfully, most games now are built based on engines. Engines are basically a pre-made foundation for a game. Instead of sitting around and writing the code from scratch, engines make that process so much easier by providing most of the basic code in advance. Things like hitboxes and terrain rules are built in. They also utilize GUIs, or a graphical user interface. This gives programmers the ability to see changes that they have made without actually having to boot into game for every little thing. The tools that an engine can provide make an already very difficult job just a little bit easier. A video game takes a lot of work to create. Sometimes teams of hundreds of people are needed to pull it off. Other times, you just have a team of 4 programmers who basically have to do all the shit themselves, and they have to live in their office for a fucking year just to get the game done. Now, it is pretty fucking bad that we as gamers have a hard time coming up with the name of at least one programmer or artist. These are the people that are truly behind a game. They build a game from nothing and bring it to something that we love. And they do deserve our respect for all this hard work. Also, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't mind more pay on top of that. I'm just saying.